We are less than 24 hours away from yet another potential shutdown as Congress struggles to move past their standoff over DHS funding. And it's not likely lawmakers are going to strike any deal anytime soon. Many of them already packing their bags, going off to that Munich security conference.
Madeline Rivera is live in Washington with all the details on this potential partial government shutdown, which is looking more likely by the minute. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, good morning, Carly and Todd. That's right. A shutdown for DHS appears to be all but certain after Senate Democrats blocked a spending bill on Thursday. Dems say a Republican counter-proposal fell short of their demands to rein in ICE. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, meantime, calls the White House offer extremely serious and says Dems should also make concessions. Remember, though, ICE still receives funding through the One Big Beautiful Bill. It's other agencies within the department that could face the brunt of the partial shutdown.
Republicans chose to put a bill on the floor that ignored the abuses, ignored the outrage, ignored what the American people want overwhelmingly. And they failed to get the votes to avoid a shutdown at DHS.
I don't support is DHS shutting down, because what's going to happen is TSA is going to shut down, FEMA is going to shut down, the Coast Guard is going to shut down. We have a lot of folks in my state who are waiting for FEMA relief from terrible tornadoes and other natural disasters that happened in the last few months.
Thune says negotiations will continue and adds lawmakers will be on call to come back if Democrats and the White House reach a deal.
Okay, that was rude. You know, short and sweet and rude, ladies and gentlemen. It is such a great day to be back in the studio. I hate traveling. I hate missing a show. I'm sorry that we weren't live on Wednesday. We actually had, well, let's just say a show fall through, and I'm angry about it. But nonetheless, you just move on in this industry, and you keep rocking and rolling. Today is Friday, the 13th, ladies and gentlemen, 2026, and it's Free for All Friday! Obama's former White House lawyer resigns in panic over the Epstein files. Wow, it's good to see, like, some consequence happening to somebody. They're having consequences, actually, outside of our country for the Epstein files. In Sweden, in Finland, in the UK, there have been humiliations and careers ended and resignations, investigations, but not in this country, and I want to know why. We have Tim Burchett on the show today. The man of the hour went viral yesterday for saying that Democrats voted with their IDs in order to stop voting with their IDs. It's great. The great Tim Burchett is somebody who can make sense of all of this. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison got like dragged, like ripped and humiliated and dragged in front of Congress. Dog walked, as they say. Mark Halprin also on the show today. Mark, let's talk about a little bit of polling, right? What's going on here in the country? Libs are saying that they're headed for victory, but we got 49 different senators to sign on to the SAVE Act. We've been doing nothing but SAVE Act maxing. SAVE maxing. So that we can MOG the Democrats. I know this pisses everyone off when I use this terminology. I'm like well aware of this. Okay, we're working on it. All right, but we're gonna be SAVE maxing and lib mogging today on the program. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is the Benny Show. Yesterday, look, I can see the face of ALX. Like, you know, he's ALX on, producer ALX is on. He's like, oh, like, Benny, don't use these words. Dude, bro, you're almost 40. Don't do it. Those are our words, okay? Gen Alpha, those are our words. Okay. Well, I'm not going to do a land acknowledgement, okay? We can conquer these words. I just think it's funny. Ladies and gentlemen, we are rocking and rolling today because of our friends at Patriot Mobile. You know, we talk about them a lot. It's Patriot Mobile. We were traveling all week. Well, we traveled the last 2 days. And I hate the travel, but we were able to stay connected with you. We were able to keep the content rolling, including but not limited to, like in the back of the car. Klein was like, stop doing recordings the back of the car, too shaky. Okay. Well, why were they shaky? Because I was in Baltimore. You ever driven down a road in Baltimore? Is it easier? Donetsk. It's probably nicer roads in Donetsk. It's nicer roads on the front lines of Ukraine. It is easier to record content in Gaza. And it's probably easier for me to be able to record content on the road in the middle of a war zone than in Baltimore, which looks like a war zone. It's crazy. We had some meetings in Baltimore with some friends. Ladies and gentlemen, even in spite of the potholes and the collapsed bridges and the burned out edifices of like neighborhoods, it's like, you ever seen this stuff? You don't need to go watch a zombie movie. You just wander around Baltimore. Just look through Baltimore. Oh man. Anyway, it was scary, and I'm glad that we had a cell phone that connected us to the world, just in case things went south. Patriot Mobile is your only Christian conservative wireless provider. Jump on in today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT and use the promo code Benny for a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT to make the switch today. We were switching it up in Baltimore. It's an IED. It's an IED. The Israelis are bombing us. I don't know. Would the Israelis bomb Baltimore? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think so. But you never know. Ladies and gentlemen, something happened there, and it's very bad. Something happened in Baltimore. I think I know what happened. There was a president that ran for office, and he's half white, half black. His name's Barack, or Barry, or Hussein, or Soweto. Can you give me that? Can you give me that banger ALX from Trump? Like the best Trump tweet. Everyone's like, "What's the best Trump tweet?" I'll show you the best Trump tweet. It's Trump saying, like in 1998, my name was Donald Trump, and Barack Obama's name was Barry Soweto. Weird. It's like the single best Trump tweet. It is the greatest mogging of Barack Obama that's ever happened. There you go. When I was 18, yes, our night of date is an age. When I was 18, people called me Donald Trump. When he was 18, Barack Obama was Barry Soweto. Weird. Weird. Yeah, Rachel Zegler. That's right. Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you, Klein. Thank you for getting that reference. Thank you for getting that reference, Klein. I appreciate that. Okay. Barry Soweto promised us that there's no red or blue America. There's no black or white America. There's just the United States of America. And while that's a great line, and I agree with him, right? Like he's as a Christian, you like agree with him. All right, we're all made in the image of God, so on. Barack Obama didn't believe that, actually. He didn't practice that. In fact, Barack Obama, who, I mean, like, is he a functionary of the deep state and the CIA? You know, was he effectively installed? Like, totally right. Like, did you really look through? Like, did Barack Obama put up the Trump tweet one more time and just scroll to the first comment there, shall we? Like, look at these. This is like USAID, you know? Like USAID is like, these are like USAID trips, all right? USAID is like the cutout for the CIA. This is like USAID stuff, all right? You could go back and find like some really crazy stuff about Obama and about like just, you know, where what's up with the dude. And none of it makes sense, all right? None of it makes any sense. And so I'm happy that USAID was shut down. I pretty much assume with some of the Richard Nixon stuff that's coming out right now. I mean, dude, can you get me that James Rosen article, ALX? I don't know if it's in the script, Richard Nixon. James Rosen, New York Times, where James Rosen just effectively has proven without a shadow of a doubt that Richard Nixon was the good guy in Watergate. That Richard Nixon is probably the best president we've had. Yes. Probably the best president that we've had. 7 pages sealed Watergate file, undiscovered until now. I'm going to paraphrase this article. I read this yesterday on my flight back. It's unbelievable. It's a locked and discarded file that proves that Richard Nixon was staving off a neocon insurrection inside of the Pentagon. That his paranoia was because his Joint Chiefs of Staff and all of the Pentagon leaders were running a shadow government in order to plunge America into forever war. And Richard Nixon was trying to stop war. Richard Nixon is somebody who obviously fought in World War II. He served as vice president under Eisenhower. He and Kennedy agreed with this. They killed Kennedy, and that was pretty messy. And Nixon gets in one administration later in a landslide, in the biggest landslide in American history. Ain't nobody has won a bigger landslide in American history than Richard Nixon. This is back when, like, we had functional voting systems. This is back when you used voter ID, right? Before mail-in voting. And Richard Nixon won. Can you get me those, the map? The map is like crazy. Richard Nixon won every state but one. Maybe he lost like Massachusetts, something like that. Won every single state but one. The biggest electoral landslide in modern American history was Richard Nixon. Only this side of George Washington, you have a bigger, like, actual electoral landslide. Anyway, he's our most popular president, and he got deep state assassinated. They said, blowing his brains out is a little too much. You know, that JFK, that was a little hot, what we did to JFK. So why don't we just assassinate him in a different way? All the guys who went into the Watergate, they were all CIA. All these guys at the Pentagon, that's what this article brings up. Look at this landslide. I mean, look at this. Is it just Massachusetts? I remember that correctly. Is it Massachusetts? You get it, you know. And then what? Rhode Island, D.C., and Massachusetts. Classic. Isn't that something? Well, and it's D.C., the filthy cesspool. This is why you got to break up D.C., man. D.C. didn't vote for Nixon. I mean, that's just crazy. And then what happened? Everyone turned on him. Yes, of course, the deep state, leftists, they were against Nixon. But also, Nixon was staving off, according to this article, Nixon was staving off effectively a neocon warmongering insurrection inside of the Pentagon, where his own Pentagon was spying on him. This is why Nixon had the recording devices and so on. Those recording devices eventually brought him down. The CIA were the ones who actually raided Watergate. Nixon took this secret to his grave, that his own Pentagon was sabotaging him and trying to go to war. Effectively, this is the TLDR version of this. He took this to the grave because Nixon was such an honorable man. He thought it would be good. It would be very, very bad, correction, for the nation and for democracy. We were in a Cold War at that point. We were like trying to prove democracy is better than Soviet despotism. And so Nixon thought it'd be really bad look if his own Pentagon was trying to assassinate and kill him politically. And that's what they ended up doing. The entire Nixon thing was a total deep state up. All of it. I cannot encourage you enough. Read James Rosen here in the New York Times. Never tell you to read the New York Times. You got to read this one. 7 pages of a sealed Watergate file sat undiscovered until now. Effectively, Richard Nixon was staving off an insurrection. The Pentagon was spying on him, undermining his presidency, prying away his presidential power. He had just won the biggest landslide re-election in American history, single most popular president in American history polling ever in modern polling. And the deep state sabotaged him and took him out. And then, like, they took him out, and then you have to ask yourself, like, wait a second, if they had all this power with Nixon, when was the last time we had a real election? You know, when was the last time we had, like, when was the last time these people weren't in charge? You know, I mean, we're going to talk about the Epstein files here in just a second. But you need to, like, take like a through line back to Barack Obama and ask yourself, like, wait a second, like, have all of these presidents just been facsimiles of the same party? We say it on the show often, but I think that the moment of Zen and true enlightenment is realizing that Michelle Obama and George W. Bush are effectively the same person. They, like, believe the same things. They do the same thing. They dance on stage together. They cuddle together in public. It's grotesque. It's one of the sickest things. It's like one of the sickest displays I've ever seen. You think that it's like an occult ritual when Bad Bunny's playing the halftime show? You should watch Michelle Obama and George Bush cuddle and canoodle and, like, sniff each other when they're together. It's super gross. I mean, look at this. Jeez. By the way, how much bigger is Michelle than Bush? Whoa. Look at that. Towers over him. This is what a proper mogging looks like. Okay, look at this. Look at that. Look at them kissing, smooching, hugging. And you got Michelle over the shoulder. Michelle, oh, look at the big hug, like the big hug from behind, right? The prison hug. You're mine. You belong to me. Whoa. Anyway, that's true enlightenment. Because if they were able to do this way back in the early 70s with Nixon, early 70s, 72, well, that means they've been in power, what, since like the Reconstruction after the war, like after World War II. Like this was like, have we had a real election? Was JFK maybe our last like real president? Because look what they did to this guy. Look what they did to Nixon. Put up the electoral map one more time. Like, what can they, like, if they can do, if a guy wins this landslide and then they are able to assassinate him, I'm just going to say they assassinated Nixon because there's just different styles of assassination. You know, you're assassinating the guy by getting him to resign, by forcing him to resign when the will of the people, they assassinated him. The CIA ran the op. Yeah, totally. Klein. Yeah, Klein's ancestors voted for Nixon. The CIA ran the op, the Watergate. They framed him up. They spied on Nixon. His own Pentagon sabotaged him. Ran a shadow government. Ran a total shadow government without his knowledge. Remember Bay of Pigs and JFK? It's the same thing. They ran the same operation. They were doing military. They're bombing, killing people. President had no idea. They weren't following his orders. And Nixon thought Nixon could have nuked him in the middle of water. Sorry, it's like I'm just going off on this, but like in the middle of Watergate, Nixon could have saved his ass by just being like, yo, the reason I have wiretaps throughout the White House is because my own Joint Chiefs, the Pentagon, is running an insurrection against me, and here's the receipts. And Nixon could have saved his ass. It would have been done. And he didn't. He didn't do that. Nixon went down on the petard because he's an honorable man. The man who's going to get the most. And I love it. I love that, like, the boomer, like, with the, you know, because this is all like boomer coded, right? Because this was all like when boomers were like, this was all happening when young and everyone was at Woodstock, right? You know, everyone was at Woodstock and everyone was like, Nixon's a crook. Nope. Actually, like in your lifetime, you will go from like the propaganda, the deep state propaganda, to actually Nixon was the single most honorable president we've probably had in the last 100 years. And that's a matter of fact. And he took the secret to the grave with him. It's just now being exposed. So you need to ask the question, like, well, where was the last time we had like a real president exactly? When was the last time we had a real president in office? Who was it? If the deep state's been able to like effectively kill, murder, shoot in the skull, blow his brains out in front of his wife and kids in the world, try to do it with Trump, obviously. If they've been able to like assassinate Nixon, which it's its own assassination, I mean, they killed the guy's career. They assassinated the will of the people, right? They blew the brains out of his presidency in a way. You know, like forced them all into this. Dude, like, what was the last, I mean, if they've been this powerful, when was the last time we had like an actual real presidency that wasn't subservient to the deep state? And this is proof that Obama was subservient to the deep state. His White House lawyer, Catherine Rumler is her name. She's a Obama official, former Obama official. Dude, she's White House counsel. Everyone will tell you, White House counsel, like you're more powerful than the attorney general. You're the most powerful attorney in the world if you're White House counsel. Anyway, she has resigned now in humiliation over Epstein links. Yeah. It's not just links. This lady was tee-hee-hee Epstein gal number one. Epstein loved this broad. This lady was the direct through line into Barack Obama. Okay? Former White House counsel Obama has resigned from her cushy position at Goldman Sachs over her ties to pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Catherine Rumler, who works as general counsel at Goldman Sachs, says she's going to resign this summer. This summer. Oh, okay. That's right. Just let her stay there for a couple more months. Get the, whatever they give you at Goldman Sachs, right? A golden idol of Baal, probably on your way out, that you can sacrifice to, pray to. Yeah. Let her stay. Let her stay until she gets her gold, and they're just melting. They're just melting the gold down right now to make her little Baal idol. Okay. The emails were released by the Justice Department show that Catherine Rumler was the bestie of Jeffrey Epstein. Not just the bestie, that she facilitated life for him. She exchanged nearly 12,000 emails. 12,000. Holy smokes. That's one direct message. 70% of the days that they knew each other. She was writing them every single day. And then what happened? As soon as she wanted to leave the White House, after getting some plum deals across the finish line for very evil and villainous globalist families like the Rothschilds, they're getting some deals over the finish line that would really help out some of the most elite and connected people on earth. Catherine Rumler goes immediately and gets set up inside of the Rothschild Bank. Who did that deal? It was Jeffrey Epstein. This lady now suddenly has her entire... So Jeffrey Epstein uses her to get some agenda items finished from the White House through executive orders. She wrote them. And then as soon as she wants to leave the administration, she goes and cashes in. It's just open, complete, and total fraudulence. I mean, also, she was just lavished with drippings and trappings from Epstein. She was given a brand new set of boots, handbag, and watch. Meaning Jeffrey Epstein, was the recipient of an award from the CIA. Jeffrey Epstein was sent an email from Catherine Rumler just hours after CIA Director John Brennan gave her an award. She wanted validation from Epstein over her CIA award. Why would that be precisely? Why would she be running to Jeffrey Epstein and saying, I got an award from John Brennan, tee-hee-hee-hee-hee. Are you proud of me, Daddy? Bro. Sent her a box of wine. She calls him Uncle Jeffrey. She was visiting with Jeffrey and Reid Hoffman. They went out for sushi and dinner. She knew about Bill Gates. She knew about Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. She calls him a wonderful Jeffrey. More importantly, she apparently was setting up Barack Obama meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, something that we didn't know about. But you can find in these emails that she's talking about, and I quote, the big guy coming to the United Nations meeting in New York. Oh, yeah. She knew. Did Barack Obama ever meet with Jeffrey Epstein? What an important question. But who the hell cares if they ever physically met? Because Catherine Rumler was the fixer. She was the one who was getting the deals done. And Jeffrey Epstein took care of his little kitty inside of the Obama ecosystem. And that's just one of the many Obama people that Epstein had a connection to. I'm really kind of blown away by all of this because, again, they have tried, and I am not the guy to sit there and say that these documents release have been anything but messy, I think. And it's too bad. I wish that they had just been out with them. The administration promised to be out with them. They needed to be out with them. There's a reason why myself and Charlie Kirk, in his last major salvo across the bow with the administration. Yeah, big salvo, big agenda item push. He had such an instinct on these things, and so did we, and so did you. That you can't reverse course on this kind of stuff. You've got to give people the Epstein files. It's been a mistake. It's been messy. It's been unnecessarily messy. I don't think that it's a reason to blackpill, crash out, and vote for Kamala Harris. Don't be cucked. But hold your own side into account. Oh, you're gonna blackpill? I'm gonna go vote for Gavin Newsom. He's way better. His wife was a Harvey Weinstein's fixer and threatened all the women with Harvey Weinstein. I'm such a better person. I'm gonna vote for Gavin Newsom. Yeah, slept with banged a secretary while she was drunk on his doorstep. That's the official narrative. Like, that's the official, truly what happened. It was his buddy's wife, his campaign manager, and his best friend. She showed up plastered and drunk. She was his secretary. He's married at the time. She's plastered drunk. She comes sloppily over to the mayor's mansion in San Francisco, and instead of picking up the phone and calling his buddy, hey, yo, your wife's on my doorstep. She's blackout drunk, hammered. You should come pick up this broad. Instead of doing that, Gavin Newsom has sex with her. Destroys their marriage, destroys his marriage. Apparently it's happened a bunch. It's it's not like it's forgivable if it's just one night, but it's that this happened a bunch of times. So you're going to because of this, you're going to go and vote for Gavin Newsom? Don't even get me started on how Kamala Harris got her career started. People are scum. I mean, if there's one shining silver lining in all this, it's that Trump's been proven to be, quite frankly, the hero of this story. If you're looking at the actual data of the story itself, turning in Epstein, whistleblower to the cops, calling in the police, ratting out Epstein, ratting out Ghislaine, kicking him out of the club, and then locking up Jeffrey Epstein, putting Jeffrey Epstein in jail through an executive order he signed against human trafficking day one of his administration. If anything, where the hell are these Barack Obama? Talking about Catherine Rumler, where the hell was Barack Obama? Barack Obama could have put Epstein in jail. He could have released these files. They had all these files. Some of Epstein's worst crimes were happening while Barack Obama was president. Some of the sickest stuff he was doing was while he was communicating with Obama's lawyer. So I'm not saying Trump's perfect. I don't like the way it went down. The last fight I had with Charlie, meaning the last thing we fought together on, was fighting against the way the administration was handling this. Trump considers Charlie like a son. So don't tell me that we haven't had, that I have nothing but frustration. Oh, I wish we would have just had out with it. Why not? Just out with it. It proves all of our enemies are the deepest scumbags. And it hasn't blown back on Trump from a personal behavioral perspective. So it's got me very frustrated that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, he was also in power for 4 years. We're just so stupid. I know we got Tim Burch here. I'm gonna stop ranting. I'll let Tim Burch just rant for a while. Let me finish my thought. We're just so stupid and weak sometimes. Why didn't we push this stuff while Democrats were in charge? You can hang hang a stone, like a dead chicken strategy. You can hang this stuff around their necks. Mike Davis always talking about the dead chicken strategy. You take the dead chicken, you tie it around the dog's neck, and that dog doesn't kill the chickens anymore, right? Because it's nasty. And what's going on here in these emails are nasty. And it's like 100-1 libs getting just completely gutted over this. Their biggest donors, their biggest friends, their biggest heroes. Barack Obama now dragged into it. This was all happening while Barack Obama was president. But we didn't push it. Weak. Too weak. No more weakness. Why weren't we pushing this? Well, Benny, you have a show. You have a big social media following. I was doing it. Dude, we did so many episodes on Epstein. We couldn't get anyone to talk about it except for Tim Burchett, who's coming on the show right now. Tim Burchett's like the only dude. And it was, of course, it was during Biden. We didn't have the stream during Barack Obama. You know, Barack Obama's president in 2008. Like, YouTube just started in 2009. It's like we didn't have it then. And that's probably why. But like, we as a side never pushed this issue when Democrats were president. Why not? It's a smart strategy because it was going to be very ugly for whoever DOJ was going to have to do this, which is why you got to get ahead of that strategy. And you got to say, I see what you're trying to do to me. You're going to try and smear me. This is a wrap-up smear. You're going to try and smear me. So instead, uno reverse, biatch. Here you go. Here's all the files. We're not even going to fight you on them. You don't have to take a vote. Here you go. There you go. Here's all the files. Sitting on my desk? Okay. If they were sitting on your desk, just release them all. Boom. Uno reverse. Fine. You want them? You got them. We got nothing to hide. You're the dirtbags. You're the filth. You belong in the sewers. And that was the way it should have been handled. That's why I got that raging phone call from Charlie. You know, Charlie never, very rarely calls me with, real anger, okay, the administration. And that was the time. And who else says that? Tucker, Megyn Kelly, they all say that. So the same thing. Charlie gave them the same phone call. We're all speaking on stage at the same night. And he was right. But anyway, you got to be able to predict these things. That's what we pay you for. That's why you're there. That's why I'm here. So I'm doing my job. You got to do your job. That's all. And this was going to be messy. And I wish that Republicans had been smart enough to have done what Tim Burchett would have done, who's joining us right now. Tim Burchett would have called Democrats asses on the carpet because it is Democrats who are guilty here. Joining me now, live, Tim Burchett. I got a bee in my bonnet this morning, Congressman. Sorry about that.
You're all right, brother.
All right. Hey, remember, it makes me...
You remember Jesus didn't ask him to leave the temple. He threw him out. So anger is okay. It's justified.
A couple things to talk about. A lot of people want to talk about Epstein. You can see Catherine Rumler, getting thrown into the wood chipper this morning. I don't think people need to line this up. Catherine Rumler is most powerful. Catherine Rumler is the most live, laugh, You can't throw me off my game. You can't. Was that part of the Epstein evidence? Is that part of the Epstein evidence file there?
Yeah, it was in the file.
Okay.
Hey, I want to warn people about that file. People have a sick fascination with this stuff. And you got kids. I got a daughter. I've been through this many times with the legislation I've had in Tennessee and dealt with, the officers that are involved with it and the awful things they say. This stuff is in these files. It makes all that pale in comparison. And if you're offered an opportunity to view the pictures or read the files, I would seriously consider not doing that.
Yeah. Because
it will haunt you, this stuff that's in there. And here's the problem. The Biden administration, the Obama administration, these files have been out there forever. And I've said this many times. If they had the goods on Trump, that the Obama administration / the Biden administration, because it never really changed hands. They would have had that stuff out there. And this stuff just goes so deep, Benny, and it is very disgusting to me. And, it's evil, it's satanic, and it's from the pits of hell. And that's where these people will end up. And I'd also warn people about, Chairman Comer was putting these files out, and they were going through them, and they were redacting the names that needed to be redacted, the innocent ladies that were involved and all this stuff. And now, of course, Democrats are pitching a fit because some of the names that should have been redacted were not redacted. But the problem you have is that is they think that some of the girls that were involved later became recruiters for Epstein. So, at one point they're a victim, and the next point they're perpetuating a crime. So I'm not sure, and I don't know how the law works on that. I'm not a lawyer, but you're talking about millions of pages. And again, who keeps millions of pages of illegal activity? It's just a weird thing. And I'm afraid, I don't know that all of it is legit. You've got accusations and rumors, and clearly there's enough in there that's awful. But it's just, I don't think I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of it.
So the Catherine Rumler is the big news this morning because she resigned from Goldman Sachs. She was Obama's personal White House attorney. Obama's the one who's like sort of skated on this, and nobody's really brought up his name. But wait a second, like the vast majority of Epstein's most heinous crimes took place while Barack Obama was president.
Yep.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein got out of jail right as Barack Obama was being put into office, and all of this stuff was going on, and it's his lawyers, the White House counsel, who's communicating with this pedophile, this convicted, sentenced pedophile, and she's like tee-hee-heeing, doing favors for him through Obama. Obama is like signing executive orders. You can like tie all this back. The Rothschild Bank, like he's like doing all this stuff. And he's like somehow like Obama's getting zero pushback on this. Why nobody asking Obama, like, why didn't you do something about Jeffrey Epstein?
Because President Obama was created. He's not organic. I mean, you pick this obscure guy from college who has zero records. You have college professors that don't remember him ever being there. And he runs, and and all of a sudden people drop out of races, and he's unopposed, and he goes from a state senator to a U.S. senator to an unknown to being president of the United States because he was created. They found somebody that fit their mold. It's the classic. I went back and watched it a couple of days ago, the Brady Bunch, where Greg was wanting to be a great musician, and he was playing all this, like Jim Croce stuff or something. I don't know. And you look up who Jim Croce is. He was great. Bad.
Yeah.
But he had some kind of ballads that were kind of romantic and sad, And so Greg's this guy, and he goes in and this record studio, and they're like, "Yeah, man, yeah, we're really digging what you're putting down," And then he says, and the lady, and it's very almost Epstein-ish, and she says, "Oh, I'm never wrong about these things." Well, the guy that they had, Johnny Bravo, had quit before they could make him a star, and they'd already bought his suit, and Greg fit that suit. And so then they tried to make him a rock, and he was going to be a rock star, but because of his, his slave to his art form or whatever, he couldn't do it, which is total bogus. Anybody given that opportunity would take that chance. But that's the way Obama was. He fit the suit, and he was he's a good-looking, articulate guy, and had a couple of kids, and came up through the corrupt Chicago machine, and you've got several in Congress that are just like that. Several, the squad. I mean, you had billionaires putting money behind probably 30 or 40 different candidates across the country, and they hit on AOC. They hit on a bunch of them, and that's how they got there. And we got to start realizing this. And the conservatives just aren't good at creating anybody. I mean, we're all a mismatch of different backgrounds and everything. And somehow it tends to work occasionally, but here we are, one vote away from losing the majority. But back to the Epstein files, they were putting them out, and the media just for some reason, wouldn't pay any attention to Comer and the oversight committee. We were doing it the right way. We 20 or 30,000 pages, and it wasn't good enough.
You, I think you called for public hangings after convictions here on this. You think we're ever going to have that?
No way. No way. Nobody's got the guts to do anything, Benny. Ain't nobody, and I've been calling for executions of those folks since I was in the legislature, and I'm trying to pass legislation, but it never goes anywhere. Everybody's like, thinks I'm being blustery or something, but it's the truth. We need them. We need to execute them, and we need to quit with this nonsense of 30 years sitting on death row, because the person you're executing is not the person who committed the crime.
Yeah, you called this on our show, and you said it, I think during it was during the Biden during the Biden years, where you talked about exactly the Epstein op and how it is constant in Congress, how this is like the way of the world in Congress.
It's the classic honeypot.
Yeah.
But this guy was, and everybody says, oh, he's Mossad because he's a Jew or something. I don't buy that. I think he was very good at collecting powerful friends. And at some point he compromised them. He found out what their affliction was, what their sickness was. And for some of those people, it was some of the most vile things imaginable. I mean, these are biblical kind of Old Testament things where God destroyed everybody over. Yes. And, the code words he uses and what those mean, I've been told are pretty, gruesome's not even the word, but
satanic. Yeah, it's satanic. It's demonic stuff. Yeah.
It is satanic. And and then you look at Hollywood and the music industry and how that creeps over into our bunch. It's just, it's really incredible. It's really incredible how deep this thing runs. And I always remember one of my favorite actors of all time was the Rowdy Roddy Piper. Not when he was wrestling, because that was real, but when he was acting. And he was in a movie, I think it's called They Live. And I always remember this scene. And then when these aliens come down and they infiltrate, and he finds these glasses and he sees that these people half the people that are in control are aliens. And Carpenter made that movie, and it was just on the surface, it's a cool science fiction movie.
Great movie.
There's just one scene though where they're in there and they're in the like a big banquet, and he said, and we the whatever they called them were the Earthlings that had gone over to the other side. And he said, we've seen our investments grow 65% since the opposition took over, and they're all cheering. And I just, that reminds me a whole lot of meetings in Congress that I've been in and where we are as a country, because they will sell their dadgum soul and look the other way to keep themselves in power. And not that everybody in Congress is involved with Epstein. You got a couple, Democrat leader was fundraising off of them, and that just tells you the power of money. And the media has ignored this story until they think they can put the thumb down on the Republican Party, and now it's out there. But it should have been out there. It's no excuse, but I just think there's more to this than we're being than the media. It's not just a cut and dried thing.
What are you gonna ask Bill Clinton? What are you gonna ask Hillary?
Yeah, I won't. I don't think we're gonna get the opportunity.
Really?
They'll plead the fifth like Epstein's old lady, and I was the one who, it seems to be lost on the media, that I was the one that called to subpoena her, get her before the committee, and she pleaded the fifth, but you needed to get it out there. And the Clintons are just, they're above the law. They are above the law. And again, Bill, I think Bill's just my opinion. I can still have an opinion in this country. I think he's just a dirty old man. He's just a pervert. And I think Hillary is just evil. And And Clinton walks in the room with that big ginormous head. Everybody just loves him. And I think he'll come in and half the committee will fall at his feet if he does. I still don't think he'll do it. I think they put a little stuff in there and then they're going to blame the Republicans, and all this. I just say bring him in and roll the cameras and let's get it over with. We've done this so many times. Oh, we got him this time. We got him this time.
Yeah.
We ain't got him. I think we need to focus, Benny, on what we know we can accomplish. That's why, I'm doing the Doge committee totally different than we've done it in the past. I'm proposing we're going to have real legislation to propose to fix some of the problems instead of just sitting there and, Jasmine and whoever else on our side yelling at each other for clickbait. And, I'm frustrated if that was your next question, and I'm down, but I live this life, man. I chose it. I knew exactly. I've told you this many times. My biggest surprise when I got to Washington was I was not surprised.
What should become, what do you think that you're going to subpoena Prince Andrew? Yeah, it's going to happen.
Do what?
Subpoena Prince Andrew? You think that's going to happen?
We ain't got no power over somebody overseas. I guess we could.
Yeah.
But, if he steps foot in America, I guess we could clamp down on him. But, England's fallen anyway. Europe is fallen. And they're just falling off the map.
So I don't want America to fall off the map. SAVE Act. A bunch of Democrats use their voter ID to vote against voter ID. It's great.
213 did. And they didn't call it racism on that.
So could you talk us through that? So you have to use a identification card, right?
Yeah, I'll show
in
it
order to vote. Yeah, please.
I've got it right here. Got it.
Please, Congressman.
Somebody always asks me, said, "Do you have a permit to carry that gun?" And I always go, "Yeah, it's right here. It's called the Constitution of the United States. I carry a copy with me." So there you go. Hang on, I'm like my dad. I got my pockets full of stuff. Hang on. There it is. It's my congressional ID. Bam!
Bam!
There it is.
I'm the authority.
Yeah,
I'm the authority.
Yeah, right there.
There you go.
And right there, you just stick it in the thing and you hit the button, yes, no, or present. And that's what you do. And that's how you vote. Or if you've lost your card, you can walk down front and you have a red or a green card. And I give those as Christmas presents sometimes. But
so you have to that looks like an ID that has your face on it. That's clearly like it's watermarked and everything like that. It looks pretty sophisticated.
Yep.
It's not like you could make it
going in official places before I'll show it up. It's an official document. I mean, it's federal.
So Democrats all have those, and they all use them to vote.
Absolutely. You can sit. There's little voter things all over the floor in different spots. I have one sit where I usually sit, as I call center's row, second row from the back on the right hand side, and you just pop it in there and hit the button. Boom. There you go.
Okay.
Democracy. But it just blows my mind that minority leaders don't literally, physically smack Schumer back on this one. Saying Jim Crow, that is just a disgrace to people that have faced racism in this country of ours. You should never, and they diminish it every time they do that. And it's always who is doing it. It's some white elite liberal from the Northeast. And that to me is just gross. And it's at some point, minority community's got to say enough with this stuff. We are off this deal. These people are not our friends. They use us. Malcolm X had some great quotes, and I can't think of all of them right now, but they use them and then they forget them the day after the election until the next election. And then they just get right back in line. And it's disgusting to me. They ought to call this stuff out.
Well, we're thankful you're calling it out. And I did want to give you a chance just really quickly here, Congressman, to talk about the Doge Committee. You are in charge of that committee. And obviously you made a lot of news last time you were on the program talking about, like the corruption that could be potentially uncovered here, and it could do a lot of good for the American people. I know there's plenty of distractions out there, but this is a welcome. This is a welcome news cycle that people love. They love seeing American government running more efficiently
We have two bills. Actually, we're going to present. My staff person, Noah Hooten, has really done an excellent job. And I've told him what I want to do, because in the past they'd say, we want to, we bring the people in, and then the staffers would come in and surround us and say, oh, let's get a study on this. And then, you do a study, it costs them a few $1 million. You vote on it, you go home, put it in your newspaper. Oh, I voted this study, which doesn't, like I said, these studies end up in that warehouse at the end of the
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I've told you, I've been in Congress 8 dadgum years. I ain't seen one of these studies. So we're bringing the GAO in, and they've already got the reports. And I'm going to go ahead of that. I'm cutting them out a year, and then bring those folks, because they're wonderful. They're just hardworking public servants, and they love America. I don't care what party they're in. They're just straight arrows, and they're going to bring that stuff to us. And then from that, we already know what's in them. So I've got legislation prepared that will put some safeguards in, so we don't have the duplication that we're having now. And that'll stop it from going in the future. And then it'll alert us to any of those that get renewed. And so we can start culling them. And so, again, it's not real sexy, but it's, we got $1 trillion in duplication. And here's the problem. Here is the problem, is the corruption of Congress, because you're going to have people in both parties that don't want to cut some department because of their association with that, whatever that is. Family member, friendship, whatever. And I suspect they're going to try to stop me on a lot of this stuff. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come on your dadgum show. I'm going to tweet about it. I got close to 1 million followers across all the whatever social media stuff.
Oh yes.
And we're gonna do some real change. That is what we're going to do. It'd be pretty cool if I could leave the end of the year this year and we'd save maybe $1 billion or $1 million, what have you. Yes. At least we're doing something. We're moving in the right direction. And again, not sexy, but dadgummit, we need to do it. We need to do it. And until I get the call from, they're not going to call me down. I think the White House loves this stuff. And the liberals, what I've told them is, we're going to save money so you can figure out and then you all are going to figure out how to spend it. And so, I'm not going to be pushing that agenda, of course, but that's what the liberals are thinking. And I'm trying to keep it down the middle of the line. So, because there's enough corruption on both parties.
If you really want to make a great deal with the liberals, then I encourage you to crack open a bottle of Ilhan Omar's winery wine with them.
I hear it's very rare. It's very rare.
Extremely rare. Almost vanishingly rare. Almost like you can't get it at all. Almost like it doesn't exist, Congressman.
Yeah. Hey, do me a favor, dude. Please don't get discouraged. You cannot get discouraged. We've got a country to save. And I feel like I talk to a lot of folks in your business, and you're one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And please don't get discouraged.
I won't, and I'll tell you why. And it's certainly not because of, certainly not because of politicians or members of the, or people who do politics in D.C. That is not what keeps me going. It is waking up, having a cup of coffee, and waiting for my children to run down the stairs to me every morning.
That is, and I want to tell you something. That picture right there is that very same reason I got a wife and a daughter. But that picture right there, that one you see on the right, were some Jewish folks. That one, yeah, you're pointing at. Some Jewish folks put a rock on that thing, and because that's my daddy on the front side, and my mama's on the other side. They're both buried right there. I guess they stack them in veteran cemeteries. It's very efficient, but it's pretty cool. But Charles Burchett Sr., that's my daddy. World War II Marine.
That's it, man.
That's what man. He was on Peleliu, on Okinawa. He went to China and fought the communists. Went to the University of Tennessee after that. I guess he fought the communists there for 40 years. My mama flew an airplane during the war, little country girl from Cheatham County. Didn't have electricity till she was a senior in high school. Her oldest brother, Roy, got killed. That flag behind me right there is Uncle Roy. The flag is on his casket. We cannot forget that.
Cannot forget it.
We are in a spot in this country and we've got to pull ourselves out of it. And people like you are the reason we're going to be able to do that, dude. I hear more people. I'm good old boys. I was up in Sevierville last night speaking to a sold out crowd, not even in my dadgum district. And they said, I've heard, people say, I love you on that Benny show. And I said, well, Benny's a good, and then people always ask me, he said, is he really like that in real life? I said, 110%.
Yeah.
So thank you, brother. Please.
It takes too much. Takes too much energy to lie. Takes too much energy to be fake. Takes too much energy to lie. I can't imagine living like that. Like living in a prison of your own design. Terrible. Better just be who God made you, man. All right. Well, God made me a father, happy father, proud father, patriot, just like you, Congressman. Thank you. We will not get discouraged. Obviously, we just keep fighting the good fight. The Psalms say a blessed generation leaves an inheritance for their children's children, creates a nation for their children's children. That's what we're going to do here. God bless you, Congressman. That's what keeps us going.
God bless me, Benny. Thank you, because he gave me people like you in my life. Thank you, brother. Let's keep fighting.
God
Pray
bless
for
you.
our country.
Keep fighting. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Tim Burchett needs absolutely no introduction or outro, obviously. Mark Halperin, also an absolute legend in Washington, D.C., a legend for his polling, for his insights into the American people and politics, and for his brand new show with Megyn Kelly. Mark Halperin joins us live right now. Mark, welcome to the program. I just want to say we're massive fans of you on this show for one specific reason that our chat's going to know really, really well, and it's a clip. And I want to just start this off. I think this is the first time you've been on the show. I want to just start this off by saying thank you for this clip right here. You asked in 2015 President Trump about his comments, Jeffrey Epstein. And his response, it goes like this. It's like a 10-second clip. Here we go.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So
we play that clip all the time. We're like, wow, Trump started his political career actually on this issue.
Well, honored to be here, Benny. Thank you for inviting me. Probably the only thing you said that I'm not really honored by and appreciative of is he said I'm a legend in Washington, D.C. Probably the last place I'd want to be a legend, and I haven't lived there in about 30 years. So I call it Sodom and Gomorrah on the Potomac. I asked President Trump, then candidate Trump, about he wasn't even a candidate then, just a potential candidate. I asked him about Epstein because he raised Epstein with, I think it was Sean Hannity, in his CPAC appearance, and it struck me as kind of an interesting thing for him to bring up and talk about. And I followed up there, and of course, like everybody who was connected to this as a journalist, I wish I'd asked him a lot more back then, but I got at least one thing in there.
So this is the moment with Sean Hannity, kind of out of the blue. Sean Hannity's like, "Hey, tell me something funny about Bill Clinton," and Trump's like, he goes to this island with this pedophile. It's like, who is this animal? Who is this man? And perhaps you could rewind the clock back, because we are now talking about over 10 years ago, 2015 CPAC. Nobody really knew about Epstein at that time. This wasn't like a very well-known person, and this wasn't a well-known op. This was President Trump actually beginning his political career on this issue in a way.
Yeah. The president's underestimated as a consumer of news, a very sophisticated consumer of news. And he's underestimated as a guy who traffics in politically useful gossip. Right? He loves gossip. He loves his personal gossip, but in service, not always, but often, of political advantage. And one of the things he saw about the Clintons was that it was going to, as the Obama team had done, that it was going to be easy to paint the Clinton and Clinton Inc. as a corrupt enterprise. And so I think the Epstein thing appealed to him because he knew it was a vulnerability, even back then, based on what he knew at the time. And again, just as the Obama team did that in 2008, I think one of the main reasons he was able to beat Hillary Clinton was because of the way he was able to tarnish them up as a brand.
So he tarnished that brand, yet we never got any Democrat doing anything. We used to have Catherine Rumler that resigned this late last evening. Goldman Sachs, she was Obama's White House counsel. Obama has sort of escaped relatively unscathed from all of this. He was president while a lot of the nastiest and worst behavior of Jeffrey Epstein was going on. And then clearly in communication with some top level people like Larry Summers and Catherine Rumler. Why is that?
Look, there's a great book to be written here about the whole thing, going back to as President, who had made this point yesterday? I can't even remember now. I mean, this is not just a Trump issue or a Clinton issue or an Obama issue, right? It goes back, a Biden issue, obviously, also. Everybody looked at what happened in the original plea deal where the federal government took a pass on indicting. And it's an indictment of individuals, but it's really an indictment of the system, of how someone accused of what Epstein was accused of could get away, not just with a cushy plea deal, but we all look in aghast at the way his sentence worked. He was allowed to go to the office and leave prison. That's not normal. Just as Maxwell's transfer to a minimum security prison is not normal. So this concept of the Epstein class, regardless of whether you believe the most detailed conspiracy theories or theories about who else might have been guilty as part of a sex ring, the Epstein class, just the special treatment Epstein got in the plea deal, the special treatment he got in terms of how he had to serve his sentence, and then the willingness of so many people to re-enter his life after the guilty plea and after he serves the unusual sentence. All that is representative of a certain elite culture. That's no surprise to anyone. This elite culture has been around since there have been people. But in this particular case, the nature of Epstein's, I call it a Ponzi scheme, because he convinced people there was nothing wrong. And I will say, to be honest and fair, a lot of people who associated with him did not know. They didn't Google him. They just saw this was a guy who knew Bill Gates. This was a guy who knew Larry Summers. This was a guy who knew Prince Andrew. And I think he effectively kind of parlayed in a Ponzi scheme, a daisy chain of relationships to re-enter people's lives. But everyone should examine not just this case, but the wider ways in which the Epstein class was able to be exploited by Epstein and to the detriment of people who were victims.
I'd really love to get your take on this, Mark, because again, you're just such a wise archivist of how these operations work and how the vectors of power are pulled. We had James Comer on the program this week, and I said, Chairman Comer, and he's a regular guest. I really like the guy, and I think he's done great work. And I said, you had Alex Acosta before your committee. There's a lot of news going on about this committee. And you had Alex Acosta, and of course, you grilled him, and he's like, yeah, he did terrible in his interview. And I said, well, no doubt. So what was his answer, Chairman, to this question? I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. This is clearly, one of the most befuddling and confusing and perhaps malevolent moments in American judicial history, where this predator, who, by the way, none of us should ever be talking about, it was the Bush administration, it was Robert Mueller at the FBI, it was the DOJ under George W. Bush in 2006 through 2008 that let the guy skate. He should have been in prison the rest of his life. We should never have to say the word Epstein. It did never been a free man again. And here's this guy, Alex Acosta, who said he was told he belonged to intelligence, leave him alone. And they did, as you just said, they gave him an unspeakable deal in order to effectively get out of jail free. And this is my final point. Sorry for this long question. Comer goes, we didn't ask him about that. What? Wait, what? You didn't ask him if he belonged to Intel? Well, what does that mean, he belonged to Intel? Can you unpack that for me, Mark?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll have to dissent from your praise of how good a job the chairman's done. I think he's not proven to be an able investigator, because to be an able investigator, you have to ask hard questions in the right way, and you have to tell the story, right? Yeah. Most people who are following this less closely, but not as closely as us, they don't even know Acosta went in because they didn't do any storytelling with that. And, he's got the Clintons coming up, but he also has Epstein's accountant and Epstein's lawyer. Why isn't he bringing if he really wants to get to the bottom of this, why isn't he asking the Deputy Attorney General to explain how shortly after the Deputy Attorney General spent time with Maxwell, she was moved to a different prison? He has the power to get the answer to that. The media doesn't. The media's asked 100 times, and they're stonewalled. So, I as a political matter, I was told Comer wouldn't do anything that the White House doesn't want. Well, the president seems to want to shut down all talk about Epstein. So it appears that Comer, at least partly, is an independent actor here, independent of the president's wishes, and wants to get to the bottom of it. But being a congressional investigator must be very hard, because very few people in my career have been any good at it. And I just don't think he and his team understand the metric of success on this and how to do it. And to me, the metric of success is expose the people who did something wrong, as only Congress can, through public hearings and private depositions, and tell the story of and fill in the missing pieces. And as you said, one of the biggest missing pieces, which amazingly we still don't know anything like the answer to, is how did he get that sweetheart deal?
I mean, it is unspeakable. Of course, would have never happened to you or me if we'd gotten a parking ticket, right? We'd be 50 years.
Yeah.
And of course, what he was accused of is underage sex trafficking. He's accused of the most monstrous things you can be accused of. It happened in the state of Florida, and he was let skate. I mean, again, that I don't have any explanation for that.
Yeah.
Do you see markings of an intel operation here? I mean, do you sort of, do you think that
right? Well,
think that holds water?
Testament to how serious his crimes were was he did plead guilty, and although his sentence was a joke, he must have felt extreme vulnerability to the facts that they had on him.
Yeah.
Whether Epstein has there's three threads that are commonly discussed, and they're not baseless. There's reasons to examine them. Did he have? Was he blackmailing people? Did he have the ability to get things from people because he secretly recorded them or somehow obtained compromising information? Number two is, was he connected to Israeli intelligence or Russia or some other foreign power? He did have interest in those countries as well as in the United Kingdom and elsewhere. And then I think the third thing people are wondering about is was there a wider ring of sort of eyes wide shut type of exploitative or illegal sexual behavior? There's reasons to think that those things, all those things should be explored. I follow this closely, and I don't think any of them are proven, and I don't think any of them are tangible enough to say, yeah, this is probably true. But it might be. All three might be true. And I think it deserves a lot more scrutiny. One of the failings right now, and it's an understandable one, is everybody's focused on the documents. You take Kathy Rumler, for instance, or Larry Summers, or Howard Lutnick. Everything that's being reported about their connections to Epstein come from the four corners of the documents. People are just reading the documents and saying, well, this happened on this date and this happened on that date. There's obviously, as voluminous as the documents are, they don't tell the whole story of any of these relationships. The same with President Trump, same with President Clinton. So I'm not currently a full-time investigative reporter, so I wish I could do this myself. I know what I would do. But someone who's a full-time investigative reporter needs to start looking at these questions. And that would fill in the answer to the intel stuff. In other words, you can't just read the documents. You got to go start talking to people in Russia and Israel and Great Britain and try to figure out, how did this guy operate in ways, and what did he do that's not reflected in his emails and texts and the other documents that were released?
It was a wild moment on the show. One of the more jaw-dropping moments I've ever had on this live stream, Mark, was when we had Dershowitz on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that dude's funny because you just ask him a question, and man, I just feel like you kind of just get the unvarnished answer. And sometimes he's very like aggressive and angsty about it. And I said, was Epstein Mossad, right? Dersh, like, you have big connections to Israel. Like, is Epstein Mossad? And he's like, no, of course he wasn't Mossad. He wasn't Mossad. He wasn't Intel. Like, there's no way Epstein wasn't reliable. And I was like, okay, unpack that. And he goes, well, this one time I was in Israel and Epstein said, I want to meet all the members of the Israeli government. So I flew him into Israel, and we all sat down with all these high-ranking members of the intel community and the Israeli government. Well, Dersh, I mean, you just like you're not making your point here. I don't think you're making the point you think you're making.
Right.
You just straight up, you're telling us exactly the kind of things that would make you think that he's acting on as a functionary, right?
Right. Right.
of some clandestine agency. So
Right.
yeah, it's I'd love to unpack that more. To your point, like just asking simple questions of, and there's plenty of people that are still around, people at the height of their careers, like Catherine Rumler, who do understand this operation. Ghislaine Maxwell's alive,
Right.
and in a minimum security prison.
Yeah. You and I see this. You and I see this very similarly. It's a puzzle about Epstein. It goes to the point you were making. I don't know if you're a big Gilligan's Island fan or not. You might be too young. Sometimes people would come to the island and they would say, Gilligan is obviously playing dumb. He couldn't possibly be this dumb. He must be a genius pretending to be dumb, when in fact the character of Gilligan was dumb. There's stuff we see, including the 2 hours of the Steve Bannon interview with Epstein. Epstein doesn't seem that bright, doesn't seem that articulate. And there's other indications of that. And of course, he couldn't type worth a darn because his emails were filled with typos.
Right.
And I know people who knew him well, who say he wasn't that smart. But the guy made millions of dollars. The guy created this Ponzi scheme. The guy went to Harvard and other universities and sat with scientists and sat with some of the smartest people in science. And some people say in those meetings he was an idiot. And it was kind of a joke, but they kept him around because he was helping raise money or pretending to. And other people say he's very smart. So was he smart enough to be Mossad, or smart enough to infiltrate Russian intelligence, or smart enough to work with Mandelson to get secret information to then monetize that? Maybe. I don't have enough data to say whether the guy was capable of that, but I'm open to it all. And I think there's still so many questions about why he got special treatment along the way, why President Trump continues to praise Maxwell or open the possibility of a pardon rather than saying she's a monster. Of course, I would never give her a pardon. What a ridiculous question. Many mysteries remain about his relationship, both to individuals and to the wider world, and about what kind of person he was.
You're exactly right. I watched that Bannon interview. I was like, Steve was on the show. I was like, dude, release all the tapes. Now's the time, man. Bro, you got to do it. And he said he's still working on his documentary. And now they've released at least 2 hours of the interviews. And that's like, he comes off really stupid.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't come off as a bright person. I thought I'd be blown away, and then finally we're able to see like directly into the man's soul. No, man, he comes off as like
a doofus,
a lunkhead. Yeah.
Yeah, lunkhead. Yeah, he does. But maybe like Gilligan, maybe that was an act. Maybe he and Steve created this thing to say, well, obviously you don't need to look into whether he's Mossad because the guy's a lunkhead. Maybe. I don't know. Could be. I'm open to anything, but I urge people not to jump to conclusions, not to say, well, because I've read he might be Mossad, he's Mossad. We just don't know. There needs to be more examination. Same with the question of whether he committed suicide. People shouldn't assume that he did, and I'm grateful that the New York Times and Wall Street Journal sometimes just say he died in prison, because I don't think it's not rational to say he committed suicide. It's also not rational to say he definitely didn't. But no one should say he committed suicide because it's just too much ambiguity.
Nobody's ever proven that to us at all. In fact, everything that the government has said has been, clearly a lie. Nobody entered the tier. Well, there's video of people entering the tier. Right. Maybe it's just changing laundry. Maybe it's not the person who killed Epstein. If somebody entered the tier, you lied. And if you catch someone in one lie, well, what else are they lying about?
Correct. Like, the other thing,
you know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Please, I did want to get your thought on this. That press release. Yeah. That press release that was released that describes the exact time and date, the way of his death, the manner of his death, how he was found, and it dated the day before he died. That seems very strange.
My guess is it was just misdated.
Yeah.
I misstate stuff all the time by a day. Here's my big thing. You don't ever hear about somebody in prison or in general in the midst of trying to kill themselves and someone interrupts them, right? You would think if that's a thing, if people would try to kill themselves, even if they might be interrupted, that would happen. But you've never heard that story, even in fiction, right? So the only reason he was able to ostensibly kill himself was because the guards were sleeping and shopping and doing stuff on their phones. How could Epstein have known that? How could he have said, well, I'm going to kill myself because I happen to know that people I can't see are on their phones or asleep? Because otherwise what would have happened was he would have started to try to kill himself. They would have seen him and come rushing in. And that's just not something that happens for whatever reason. So I'm deeply skeptical.
Yeah, didn't he just he had a failed attempted suicide a couple of days earlier?
They claim.
They claim, yeah. That's right.
I don't know. That's not been documented to my satisfaction either.
We try our hardest to do what you're talking about here and to talk to the people who have firsthand knowledge of this. Rudy Giuliani built that prison, right? When he was a federal prosecutor, he was in charge of like building the prison. When he was mayor, he was overseeing the prison, and they designed it so that you couldn't hang yourself.
Yeah.
I thought this was remarkable. He said, listen, he goes, how tall are you? The ceilings are 7 feet tall. If you're 6 foot tall man, you're like crouching effectively in these cells. It's built so that you feel small, tight, and so that you feel trapped. Yeah. There's no place to hang yourself. We designed it so you couldn't get any leverage to hang yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's a wild thing for Rudy to say.
It is. And if he did try to kill himself, how could they have left him alone without a cellmate? It doesn't make any sense. I have been so troubled by the lack of rigor of bringing forward these facts, because it's not just a game or a puzzle or a whodunit. There's serious questions about whether someone killed him, and if so, why and who. And it's the same with the question of Maxwell's transfer. How could it be that she was transferred? The Attorney General suggested the other day nothing unusual about her being transferred. That just does not accord with every expert who I've seen quoted. How could she be in a minimum security prison now? How?
You speak so regularly with the American people, and you do polls, and your app Two Way, and your show on Two Way is awesome. And I know you have a brand new show with Megan as well. We're just huge fans of all of it. What is the sentiment out there about this? I mean, I know what the sentiment is in my chat for sure, which is that we're being lied to. And then in your personal estimation, and maybe this is an inappropriate question, but like, how would you how would you restore any trust on this issue? Is it lost, like completely?
Yeah, it's hard now. I'm really troubled by the basic incompetence of redacting things that shouldn't have been redacted and unredacting things that should have been redacted. I know it's a lot of documents. I know it's the government, but that's just not just symbolically it leads to a further erosion of trust, but the result of it leads to a further erosion of trust. I think that answering the basic questions about whether there was some sort of international sex ring, child sex ring, answering the basic question of what Epstein's ties were to government of all sorts, including intelligence, the basic questions of why he got a sweetheart deal, the basic question of whether he killed himself, the basic question of his relationship with current and former president. Those are, I think, fundamentally answering those would be at least a down payment on restoring trust.
Well, Mark, I know that you have to hop and you have a heart out. I did just want to give you a little bit of our own personal reporting, which is really exciting. Epstein's cellmate at the time is a serial strangler.
Yeah.
Who broke
alleged. He says he's innocent, but
okay, great. Don't know anybody else who was on the cell. They won't. Bureau of Prisons won't release any of the information.
Yeah.
But we do know this guy. He killed a couple cops. He strangled them to death.
Yeah.
Epstein had like a broken clavicle or something like that. So a broken little neck bone, very hard to break. Honestly, virtually impossible to break your own. Yeah. So interesting.
I'm with you. Those are areas that require additional reporting to understand how this could possibly have been. And anybody, as I said, don't assume he killed himself, but don't assume he didn't. But right. Let's get to the truth.
Let's get to the truth. Wonder if he's alive today. It really does make you wonder. It really does. I wonder if he's alive. Thank you, Mark. Obviously, here's Mark Halperin's on social media. He has hundreds of thousands of followers. Here's also his brand new show with Megyn Kelly. And it's the YouTube page for his brand new show. It's Up Next with Mark Halperin. And thank you, Mark, for being on the program. It's
honored to be here. Really appreciate it. Good to visit with you. Take care.
I'm sorry. I'll never say that you're a legend in DC again. My apologies.
Just say I'm legend in the real America.
That's right, man.
Or in my own mind. Either way.
Well, bro, I was in DC yesterday. I'm like, get me back to Tampa as fast as possible. And I was like, back. I can't even spend the night there. I don't like it.
Thank you, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark. Godspeed. We were talking about it on the show. I was like, yo, man, we gotta like do something here. I mean, it's Burchett and Halperin. It's like, you got to do something. And I guess they have 3 million more documents they're going to release. Holy moly. I mean, this was bad enough. What are they holding on to the other 3 million for? What's going on there? And I'm not going to be I'm doing my best to call balls and strikes here. Doing my best to call balls and strikes. Bannon's been on the show. You know we have nothing against Bannon. But boy, it don't look good. These messages with Epstein, the connections with Epstein, it just don't look good. We've said that. And we've talked about Trump and his mentions in the files, Elon and his mentions in the files. I mean, we're trying to be fair. And there's, fair is like, who are the people who cut off Epstein before his predator and pedophilia guilty pleas? I mean, he admitted to these crimes. He said he did these crimes. And then there's the people who were like really, really close with him afterwards. There is a delineation. There is a distinction. I don't know. I know that it's been, unfortunately, very, very, very poorly handled. And it's too bad. Yeah, I wish it was just like a day one thing. It's just, here's 7 million files day one. Have at it. Like virtually zero redactions. Here you go. Bam. Like first day that when Trump was doing that giant, the executive order signings, in the arena, should have just done it then. Trump should have taken a leaf blower and just like blown all the documents out into the crowd at the stadium. You want Epstein? You can't handle Epstein. And you just leaf blow it. Not trying to make light of it, but I don't know. Gallows humor, I guess. Okay. Let's do a little pick me up. Pick me up. Like the price of gold. Well, the price of gold is like ups and downs, right? Ups and downs. But it's doing great. Advantage Gold is our gold partner on the program. We talk about them a lot. Those who own real physical gold and silver, watching their wealth win right now. If you have an IRA, 401k, you can swap it over right now. Switch it to watch the winning happen, take control, and grow what's yours with Advantage Gold, America's #1 precious metal company. And they'll show you how to move your retirement savings into physical gold and silver, tax-free and penalty-free. Little-known IRS-approved strategy. Get started by texting Advantage Gold today, Benny, BENNY, to 85545. You'll instantly get a gold investment kit. Don't wait while the rally keeps breaking records. Text Benny to 85545 right now. Find out how you can profit and help protect your savings with Advantage Gold. Okay. Switching it up just a little bit. Josh Hawley going scorched earth against the Attorney General of Minnesota. His name's Keith Ellison. Unfortunately, these hearings take so long. Like if you had done this when everybody was talking about Minnesota and the fraud of Minnesota would have been a little bit spicier. But nonetheless, Josh Hawley bringing it. I mean, this guy should be in prison. Tim Walz should be in prison for what they did. But I guess that's the best we can get. More angry letters. Here we go.
Getting him to answer basic questions was a bit like pulling teeth.
Are you the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, yes or no?
You know the answer.
Mr. Ellison, you're in my courtroom now. You're under oath. So I suggest that you answer my questions.
Ellison, no stranger, of course, to this forum. He took great offense at the tone and tenor of the questioning, especially when it came to the fraud issue dogging his state.
The people who ran the Feeding Our Futures program came to you in your official office in the state capitol December 11th, 2021, and asked for your help in getting investigators off their backs. They complained to you for upwards of an hour about state investigators going after them, and they begged you to help them, and you agreed to it, amazingly. And we know you did.
That's not
because
true.
It's all caught on tape.
Yeah,
Every single sentence is caught on tape.
Holy moly, caught on tape. Now, predictably, like a lot of folks in this situation, Ellison was combative, snarky, recalcitrant, and quick to push back.
You know, the other thing is whistleblowers came to you as early as 2019. Let's look. As early as 2019, whistleblower. Don't talk over me.
No,
as early as
talking
2019, it's my hearing, pal. As early as 2019.
Don't call me
whistleblowers came to, well, I should call you prisoner because you ought to be in jail.
Well, we'll see what you can do about it.
Ooh, Ooh, that may have been the line of the day. And it wasn't just Ellison's words that was bothering senators. Apparently, it was his face, too.
So now you're an ICE officer. You're doing enforcement action. You've got a team behind you trying to protect you. You've got all these trained activists behind you. Is it any wonder they're at hair trigger alert? A tragedy was going to happen, and you encouraged it. And you ought to feel damn guilty about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, sit there and smirk. Smirk. It's sick. It is despicable.
Maybe we should have clipped that. I'm like watching this like this is my first time because we were traveling yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to see this. Man, this hearing is a smoke. Holy moly! Maybe I should have gone to this hearing. I was in D.C. We were in D.C. and Baltimore yesterday. Had to skip home, man. Had to get home. What does happen? You know, like what does happen? Kind of it makes your blood boil because the way that they're acting as though like Republicans don't have any power, but Republicans have the Senate and the House and the White House. It's like crazy. Imagine how they're going to act when they're back in power. I mean, we already saw what happened. The Obama years, the Biden years. We saw what happened. Like, goodness gracious, this is how they're going to sit and smirk and sneer, flip you off, spit on you. When we're in power, they're in the Senate. And instead of like, I don't know, holding them in contempt or whatever, like Republicans just sit there and take it. I mean, we like Ron Johnson. We like Josh Hawley. We got nothing, you know, I got no beef. These guys are on the stream. But like, you just sit there and take it? From that smarmy communist? Dude, Republicans got to have more of a backbone. He goes, what you going to do about it? What you going to do about it? Refer you to the DOJ. Arrest your ass. Josh Hawley's like, here are all these crimes you committed. What you going to do about it? Jeez, man. Holy smokes. Keith Ellison, dirty, man. He's dirty. But, you know, with these kind of guys, Democrats were locking them up. These kind of guys, like them, you know, in Georgia, they were like arresting everyone. Where is that? Where's the guy's arrest? Where's his arrest? Look at this face. Look at this. This is the guy with the Antifa manual, by the way. You wonder why things go so south in Minnesota. Where's his subpoena? Where's his records? Where's his cell phone? Where did he get all of his emails? He's totally communicating with the mob. He's totally communicating. Look at this. Holding up the Antifa handbook. The fascist handbook. There he is. There you go. And he's going to sit there and sneer at the senators. Didn't you call him in? I mean, you're like, I don't know. I don't know if he got the best of Josh Hawley. What I'm saying there is like, well, you should back it up by prosecuting him. What you going to do about it? What a smug a-hole. Goodness gracious. Anyway, we couldn't get out of DC fast enough for the many of the aforementioned things, the satanic rituals and stuff. We couldn't get home fast enough. Back to my Helix Sleep mattress, baby. Woo! Helix Sleep! Do we sleep well? Yeah, we do. Did we used to sleep well? Nah. We sleep well now. Helix Sleep is the mattress that we have throughout our entire home. Okay? Got the kids' rooms. Got our room. Oh, man. And you just, like, knock out right on it. Probably oversharing here, but, like, got a 2-year-old sick cough constantly, like, jumping. You know, little kids, they jump in your bed in the middle of the night. Dude, you got to, like, get the sleep. Got to sleep when you can. You must sleep when you can. So, anyway, Helix locks us in. The Helix Sleep Quiz will make sure you get the right mattress. It's award-winning free shipping and a Happy Helix guarantee. You can rest easy knowing you can have seamless returns and exchanges, but you won't have a seamless return or exchange because you won't want to return or exchange it. Their 120-night sleep trial is a limited lifetime warranty. Make sure that you have 100% confidence in your purchase decision here. Go to helixsleep.com /Benny for 27% off site-wide. HelixSleep.com/Benny, 27% off site-wide. Make sure that you enter the show name so they know who sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, we know who sent us. You know what I mean? We know who sent us. We'll do some into chat, right? And do a little chat this Friday. We haven't been able to chat enough with the chat, and more importantly, like we're gonna do a lot more work with the members. I thank you. I thank the members. We have thousands of members on this channel, and we just want to say thank you. Everybody who's like there to support us. We are here for you. And we're gonna like keep fighting. You're exactly right. We're gonna do what Birch says. We're gonna just keep fighting. But you keep us going, and we just want to like pray on you and say thank you. And we'll always be we're just constantly encouraged and show up. And we've got a ton of fun battles to fight ahead. We're gonna keep winning. Okay, here we go. Let's go in the chat. Let's go. All right. Yeah, I see. Here we go. Chat. We love you. Thank you. They love Charlie. What's up? They love Charlie. Rock and roll. Happy Friday. We're rocking and rolling. Thank you. Baron Jogger. God bless you, Benny. God bless you back. Marifrax. Okay, here we go. Here we go. American flag emoji. Awesome, brother Benny. You're great. We love you back. You sound retarded. Okay? You know, if my wife would please leave the chat, okay? You can save these criticisms for when I get home. Pray on you. This is what Christians say. Now, pray. Like you pray. You pray to Jesus. You got to pray every single morning. Yeah. Sick of these Democrat traitors. It's for real, man. It's for real. Doing everything we possibly can and more to fight them off. Let's go. Okay. So let's go Rumble here. So should Fauci, Brennan, and Clapper. That's right. Where are those guys? Why are they still free? Why aren't they ready to go to prison yet? Evil jerky. They say that jerky. We asked Anna Paulina Luna about this. Jerky is hundreds of times they're asking about jerky. Hundreds of times the people are saying that it's human meat, maybe child meat. The evil demons. Can't believe Ellison was asking the questions. That's right. Man. It is rough. I just want to say thank you, Deborah, for reposting the stream. Thank you. Chat with the chat. DOJ can't bring charges until the activist judges are removed. I mean, you could just bring the charges. You know, Mike Davis says, he says the punishment is the process. Process is the punishment. Let me reverse that. Okay. How about we shut down everything except for ICE? That's my prerogative. Okay. I appreciate that, Magnum Norse. Sure. I mean, ICE has been funded. Like, you're not shutting anything down, right? Like, ICE has been funded. It's got $100 billion of funding for ICE. And got a very encouraging story yesterday from CBS ALX. Why don't you grab that? About how everyone's just self-supporting now. Everyone's just like saying, nah, they ain't getting in. You ain't getting in. We just self-deport at this point. Blue states are redrawing their districts. I haven't heard about any red states doing the same recently. Florida's about to drop new districts. But yeah, I can't believe it. But like blue states are trying to win the redistricting battle. They have some court injunctions in various states like Virginia and California and Maryland. But we'll see. We got to still see how that shakes out. Florida redistricting. Come on, baby. You can get 5 seats out of Florida redistricting. I remember my parents hating him, so this is blowing our minds. I was 5 at the time. Nixon. That's right. This is a chat during the Nixons. Yeah. Nixon's gonna be vindicated, dude. Nixon's gonna be crazy vindicated. It's gonna be like the wildest reversal in American history. Since the Rothschilds didn't want to go disappear to their islands in Antarctica without messing with the USA, it's time to go investigate their vacation islands. Seems fair. Let's go investigate Antarctica. Why can't you go to Antarctica? What's buried under ice in Antarctica? They say there's a seed vault. I don't believe it. Why can't you go to Antarctica? Why are there all these seaports there? What's going on there? Rothschild Island. There is a Rothschild Island in Antarctica, just by the way. Far right-wing Wikipedia tells us there's a Rothschild Island. Yeah. Okay. Executions. We can't even get a single arrest. There you go. Yep. Here we go. From Lady Trucker. Thank you, Lady Trucker, for always being rolling with us on the stream. Good morning, Benny Johnson and team. Brigade Benny, as much as this administration wants to move on from other things, do not let the Epstein files die out. Please don't, especially for the victims. We spent the whole show on it. We've been live for nearly 2 hours, and 99% of the show has been on Epstein. And by the way, this isn't like some new thing. We've been talking about this for, well, as long as the show's been around. We've been talking about Epstein. As long as the show's been live. Yeah. Only jail time for Republicans, none for Democrats with overt evidence of wrongdoing. I don't like the defeatist attitude. I don't like it either. I don't like it either. So, it was a tweet, ALX. Go check their timeline. Tweet, dude. Yep. Only jail time for Republicans, none for Democrats. Yeah. Don't have the defeatist attitude. But the only way that you get out of it is you have to keep fighting. The only way out is through. You can't just yell at it. You got to keep going. That's why we do the show. Here we go. Being a guy is hard these days. You turn 12 and you have to compete with the bankers, politicians, and billionaires for girls your own age. Well, if you're 12, I wouldn't recommend that. You can't really give advice to any 12-year-olds. If you reverse those numbers and you're 21, so meaning you have just gotten out of college, and then you have to compete, then fine. But I speak at colleges and campuses and turning point events all around the nation. There are don't get blackpilled. I think that quite frankly, social media is a poison. It can be a contagion to a lot of young women and young men to blackpill and think that the entire world exists inside of this Instagram portal, and it actually doesn't. It actually doesn't. There are so many good, young, energetic, and excited people out there. I meet them all the time. I was in Utah this last weekend, and I was at an event, and I was standing in a photo line, and this couple comes up to me, and they're like, yeah, "We just want to tell you, you called us out at a turning point event for cuddling, and you embarrassed us because we weren't public with our relationship. Now we're married and we have 4 kids." And I was like, dude, that's awesome. There's encouraging stories like that all the time. I see them everywhere. And I'm constantly getting asked by young people, how do you have a happy marriage? How do you have a stable relationship? How do you have kids? How do you meet somebody? I'm constantly being asked that. People are longing for that. I would encourage you, go to church. Go meet people at church. Go meet people in physical locations. Don't be doomer pilled or black pilled on the internet to think that everything is just everything. So much of that is fugazi. Some of that's not real. So yeah, sure. I mean, they're you have to compete with bankers, politicians, and billionaires. Okay. Yeah. I just say don't get discouraged. I don't understand the problem with voter ID. You have ID to get a PO box, bank account, utility bill. Yeah, you have to have ID to vote against voter ID. This clip needs to go viral. President Trump calling out the Slimestein years ago. That's true. Trump was on it. We must win the midterms. Make MAGA proud, American proud. Fight that fight, Benny. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we will keep fighting. How can we win like President Nixon? Please share your ideas with all of us. Maybe look into how he won. We need the tools. The way he won was that we didn't have mass immigration welfare society. That's how he won. I mean, Democrats decided after the Nixon election that they were just going to have to go hard into babysitting, right? Babysitting whole third world populations in our nation and plying their votes and then just straight up legitimately rigging all of the votes with these communities. And the nation has never recovered from that. So after the Nixon victory, pop it up. After the Democrats saw that, they're like, we'll never win again. We're never going to win again. They saw this, they're like, no way. There's no coming back from this. The reason you can't have a map like this anymore is because of the open floodgates to third worlders to come here and parasitically live off government programs that Democrats run and promise to give them more of. It's a parasite on the nation, and there's huge populations of those people clustered inside of these crumbling cities in blue states. And that's how Democrats decided that's how they were going to win. That's what they were for. They started with California not too long after this election in the 80s with Reagan and Reagan's amnesty. And Richard Nixon was such a better president than Ronald Reagan, like in every conceivable way. It's just a matter of fact. It sucks that that's the case. It is the case, though. It is true. And so, I don't know what to tell you, man. I just think, no. I mean, this map looks red on the wall, but the Electoral College doesn't look anything like that. The Electoral College, for Trump, it's like, I think it was 320, right? Yeah. It was like 320 for Trump. What is this? What is the Electoral College for Nixon? It has to be 400. Yeah. Yeah, 312. Yeah. To 226. Yeah. And then what was it for Nixon? 520. Jeez. Yeah. Not sure you'll ever see anything like that again. Not sure you'll ever see anything like that again. All right, fight the great fight. That's what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to win. But anyway, please look in the lawfare that's still going on Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon, and Jack Daly. Yes, we will. We obviously, separating the Epstein stuff, which I think Steve has to answer for. What they did to Steve and what they did to Navarro is obviously evil. And the January 6th committee is illegally constituted. It's not a real committee. They didn't have to answer a subpoena for a non-real committee. Please give Texas House 23 candidate Brandon Herrera on your show. He lost by 400 votes last election. Tony Gonzalez. Brandon Herrera is awesome. Let's totally book him next week. I'm a big fan of Brandon Herrera. That's how we got to win like Nixon. The reason why we can't win like Nixon, to answer your question, is because since Nixon's that election is a country that's like plus 90% white Christian. And they've fundamentally changed the nation. They have used mass immigration of third worlders to change the nation forever. And so now we're in survival mode. That's why we can't have an election like Nixon. We had safe, secure elections of a people that had a deep and rich culture in common language, common religion, and we had a common motivation together. And Nixon, of course, appealed to that motivation. LBJ was it was an anti-LBJ election. LBJ was created every single welfare program in America, created legitimately the parasite state, all of the Medicaid, Medicare, Great Society programs. LBJ brought all those around. Everybody hated them. Everyone was repulsed by it. Nixon was a protest vote against that. And then Nixon did a great job governing, brought about peace, and he was assassinated for it by the deep state. Anyway, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you again for watching the program. We have our poll to end the show. Let's go ahead and jump on over. Is Jeffrey Epstein going to be confirmed alive before 2027? Here we go. What are the numbers on this? 6% chance. 6% chance that Jeffrey Epstein's alive by 2027. That's right. It ain't not nothing. We've been asking this question. We asked this question to Alex Jones. Alex Jones was like, yeah, he's totally alive. I was like, all right, man. Woof. It's like, dude, totally. Why not? You know, at this point, you're just going to have to prove, more importantly, you're just going to have to prove the negative. You have to prove that he's not, that he's actually dead. And you've never done that. You've never done that. Nobody's ever seen any like actual autopsy photos. Nobody's seen any confirmation, any DNA testing. Like, you've never done that. You've hidden it all. And more importantly, you had a fake body. This is the thing that made me so angry yesterday. You know, in these emails, you can find the fake body. They had a fake body at the ready to wheel out a fake body in front of the media as they chucked Epstein's body into a black van, into the garbage truck, and wheeled him out of the prison. Absolutely wild. You can find it in the emails. They had a fake body on hand. You grab that Daily Mail article. Make sure we'll put it up. We recorded yesterday. So yeah, they had the wrong date for their press release. They had a fake body at the ready. They've lied time and time again consistently about this in multiple documents, multiple different professional settings. Nobody went into the tier. All that was a lie. They refused to tell us who was in the tier with Epstein. Yeah, I'm just not going to believe it. Epstein guards used fake body to trick media waiting outside. Oh, really? So is that the government's job? The government's job now to trick the media? Funny how nobody screams freedom of press on this one. The government's job is to trick the media, huh? Jeez. Fake body waiting outside. Pedophile corpse was loaded in to an unnoticed, unmarked van. Nothing strange about that at all. Whew. Okay. Gotta do an exorcism after this show. Gotta do the exorcism. The verse of the day. Whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone hung around his neck to be thrown and drowned into the depths of the sea. This is Matthew 18, the words of Christ himself. Yep. Why do we have to go so hard on this? Because our Lord compels us to, because Christ is king. And this ain't something that we just stumbled upon and are suddenly very interested in. It's something we have been talking about consistently for years. And we'll stay talking about it. I don't care. I don't give a damn who's president. What blows through all of this, what blows through all the stock market numbers or the deportation numbers or anything, is protecting children. I talked about it with Burchett. It's my sole motivator, obviously, is my children, the life of my children, creating a country for them and preserving an inheritance for them. I said that there's a blessed generation that does these kind of things. And that is the chief motivator, and it's something that the administration, I think, could totally miscalculated here. And Christ says and tells us, if you harm a hair on these little kids, harm a hair on their kids, cause one of them to sin, then take a giant boulder, tie it around your neck, and then throw you and drown you to death at the bottom of the ocean. A bunch of sea creatures eat your guts. That's what he says. So that's just flipping the tables in the temple, which is what we try and do around here to the best of our ability. And we thank you for joining us, obviously, in this mission. March with us into this glorious weekend in the greatest country on earth. It is still. It's your boy, Benny. See ya.
The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings, and their dying legacy, media deal weeds. Soon will the Benny Show come to mind, the salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun, we sail for #1. Come come to mine the salt from lids for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for #1, the biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.